There's no sound. Okay. Over to you, AG.
Thank you, Chair. It look
Online?
Good afternoon, Chair. Sorry, it does appear that the sound is back on and it's working. I'm Francois Barnard, Chairperson of the Provincial Treasury Audit Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Can you hear us? Members?
Yes, I can hear you. There's sound now.
Yes,
Good.
I can hear you as well, Chair. This is Leon van Wyk, member of the Public Accounts Committee. Thank you.
Yeah, over to you, AG.
with your permission, Chair, I would like to start on page 4 and to skip the background
afternoon, members. Good afternoon, Minister and the department. My name is Ferdinand Christians. I'm the chairperson of SCOPA. Next to me is Mr. Dustin Davids, and then we have Ms. Lizette Pluter sitting at the back there. We're going to do introductions of the members sitting and then the members online. Then we'll go over to the Minister, HUD, and the Gambling and Racing Board as well. Oh, thank you very much, members. Over to you.
Afternoon. My name is still member Nominkodlo.
Good afternoon. I'm Benedicta van Minne.
Good afternoon. My name is Pat Lecker.
Good afternoon, Peter Johnson.
Afternoon, Deirdre Baartman.
Good afternoon, Jalinda Gantana.
Good afternoon, Kumafani.
Good afternoon, Primo Abrams.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Liesl Hartman.
Good afternoon, Lizanne Venter.
Good afternoon, Asogan Shetty.
Good afternoon, Taryn van der Rede.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nadia Ismail here.
Good afternoon, Ziad Majid.
Afternoon, Michelle Nicholas.
Good afternoon, Nadia Ringquist.
Good afternoon, Malcolm Boyson.
Good afternoon, Robin Bennett.
Good afternoon, Alvin Matthews.
Good afternoon, Sakabawam Solo.
Good afternoon, Isaac Smith.
Good afternoon, Grant Caswell.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Leon van Wyk, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Basil Petrus, member of the committee.
Mine's still online.
Good afternoon, Chair. Francois Barnard, Audit Committee, Provincial Treasury.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Blanche Cancross, Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Ritvan van Rensburg, Provincial Forensic Services.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Stanley Martin, Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Chair. Liana Donis, Internal Audit.
Thank you very much. At the back of the AG, do you want to do introductions?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beauty Miende.
Good afternoon, all. I am Sinete Mangamalo.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Tumisana Nkokwani.
Okay, let's go. Let's continue, members. I see this is day 10 of the annual reports. It's quite a hectic time, but it's day 10. We're almost there. We're almost completed. We're going to do the entity first, and then we'll do the department. But I'll give the minister opportunity. HUD, if you can do the introductory remarks as well for the department, and then we'll also give the board. Then we know the introductions is done. So when we go over to the department. Or do you want to wait till the department? Because it depends on you. You're going to wait. You're going to wait, and then we'll give over to the board to just to do introductions. And as we do it here, we do it section by section. We're going to do part C, 48 to 71, then part E, 82 to 86, part F, 88 to 152. And then the members knows I give 2 questions per member. And then we let the department answer, a follow-up, and then new questions. That's the way we do it. Thank you, members. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I will pay some of my introductory remarks so that I don't necessarily have to go twice. It's wonderful being in front of SCOPA, albeit in a different role. So thank you so much for having me. I want to just say to the Provincial Treasury team, as well as the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board team, just well done on a clean audit. Not only did they both receive clean audits, but the Provincial Treasury actually received its 11th consecutive clean audit, and we received a clean audit on the Provincial Revenue Fund. For those who might be sitting at home, the Provincial Revenue Fund is essentially our bank account where our money lies as the province. So we are very proud of this achievement. It's not easy, and the more you receive clean audits, the more difficult it is actually to maintain them. Also, in terms of the Provincial Treasury reporting data, our performance targets, we received 94% in terms of performance targets, and the 4 that we did not meet are actually based on circumstances outside of our control. And Chair, we are committed to refining some of those indicators going forward, where it is not directly linked to the actions of the Provincial Treasury, in order to do even better in the following year. Especially with the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board, they've contributed in terms of the taxes that they've collected on behalf of the province, 1.5 billion rand to the Provincial Revenue Fund. And this increase has also been largely to the increase on the online betting in gambling at the moment. And they've also reported via the industry 30.7 million rand towards CSI programs for the reporting period. So just to the board chair in his absentia, they'll be represented by Ms. Fani and her team, as well as to the CEO, Mr. Abrams, and his team. Just congratulations on this absolutely amazing feat. And I also want to just say, Chair, all the reporting period was under my predecessor, Ms. Mireille Wenger, and just congratulations to her as well as the executive authority during this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Chair, just a brief overview of the successes and challenges of the Gambling Board over the financial year. As the Minister has already alluded, Chair, the Board has achieved a clean audit for the year under review. The Board achieved an accounting surplus of 5.2 million and a cash basis actual surplus to budget of 15.8 million. The Board achieved savings on its expenditure budget of 9.8 million. And in addition, the Board collected revenue in excess of budget in the amount of 5.9 million. The Board was able to meet all of its financial obligations and within the set timeframes. And then, Chair, with regards to the challenges of the Board's salary packages cannot compete with other gambling PLAs in the country or other government entities, and that remains a challenge for us. The Board is not able to achieve its financial self-sustainability through its own efforts. The Board is unable to fund additional resources it requires to implement the organizational development recommendations needed to offer the gambling industry a more effective and efficient service. And also, Chair, the failure of the Department of Infrastructure to honor its original offer to assist the Board to refurbish its new premises has caused a delay and also an increase in cost, which the Board now has to fund itself. And thank you, Chair. I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much for the introductory remarks. Members, we on part C, 48 to 71. I'll take the first round. Is there any hands? Member Pet Lekker. I only see the one hand. Member, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon once again, Chair. My question is on page 64, on the table that starts, I think it's SR5, disruption to critical business operations. I want to ask, Chair, in light of the fact that there is seemingly there's an issue with the self-sustainability of the Board, I want to check, Chair, as to how is this going to be mitigated, especially if it from my thinking, if it talks to the strategic risks within the department. Two, Chair, around the page 65, internal control unit. If the department is outsourcing this important unit within, or if the gambling board is outsourcing this, isn't this also going to be a contributing factor, particularly to self-sustainability? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members? Is that fine? Just one question I have on 67. Point 14, social responsibility. The board did not have a social responsibility programs, but you impose conditions on license holders. How do you monitor this? How do they sign before the? How does that work when you engage the people, these people, to impose certain conditions on the license holders? I'm going to take that round first, and then we'll come back over to you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'll start with the last question with regards to CSI and how that works. If I can ask Mr. Bennett just to come in and give a brief overview of the conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. License holders at the time when they made application would have put it in their bid commitments. Their bid commitments is then translated into license conditions. The board monitors that from a sort of a three-prong approach. The firstly is at the quarterly meeting, license holders are supposed to provide reports to the committees of the board, who will review these reports in terms of what they have, what their contributions have been in terms of the CSI commitments. Because it's quarterly, obviously they would not achieve whatever they were supposed to do for the year. Then 3 months prior to the renewal of the license, we conduct a license condition audit to ensure that all the conditions have been met, including the CSI contributions. The reason why we do it 3 months before the time, if there's any issues regarding the license conditions, they have an opportunity to address those issues before the license gets renewed. At the renewal, the renewal application serves at the board, where the details regarding the CSI is also observed. Further to that is what the board, the committee members done, which is the board members, is on a quarterly basis, they will ask the license holder to identify specific CSI projects. The committee members then will go themselves out to the specific projects and just see exactly if they are worthy projects, what they're doing, and in terms of sustainability of the beneficiaries. Okay.
Thank you. And the question regarding self-sufficiency and whether that affects the business operations, I'm going to ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we do have constraints relevant to our employees and staff. At this moment, we organize our staff to be able to go to the risky areas, and where we needed most. We are awaiting final approval or seeing where we're going to with funding of our OD exercise. And once that is done, we will know where to go to next. So we've not filled our vacancies in the meantime, because if we don't get enough funding, we'll then have to rearrange our staff and our employees and use those 9 vacancies, the funding for those vacancies, to employ people to be able to do what is critical. So that's how we manage it at the moment. And you'll see there's some overtime. So our staff also works overtime to make sure that these critical functions are met. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. On the outsourcing of our unit, it's actually internal audit that we do, that they come and test our internal controls, and this goes up to our oversight committee, which is the audit committee. They test it. We obviously develop our own internal controls internally, but the unit simply tests it and then report that to the audit committee, and the audit committee in turn reports it to the board. So that we don't have an effective unit because it's not big enough currently to have a unit to do that, and that's the reason why we outsource it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Are we done with governance? Is there any questions on governance? There's no questions on governance. We're going to move over to PFMA compliance report, Part E. Members, any questions on Part E? Well, while you're paging, we're going to go to 84 on the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, confirmed. If you can give me A, B, and C on that, answer that. And then my second question is, I see the explanation is on page 86 about invoice paid after 30 days. I see the explanations are at the bottom. Their payments were only made after goods services has been received. For me, it's always a tricky question because, you know, you receive the invoice and there's maybe a condition. Listen, I only pay after you deliver the goods or something like that. At least here's some notes to explain that. But I always look at when the public looks at it, when people don't have the opportunity to ask questions, you know. And I don't know if it's, I don't know, maybe you can just think around that before, then I'll ask more questions on that. But you got the 3 points. Officer awaited credit note before payment was made. The officer awaited confirmation of bank details. Now, if somebody gives me an invoice and I don't have the bank details, how can I say, you know, I can only pay if there's bank details, but now I pay after but you didn't give me a proper invoice. You understand my point? So I cannot be penalized to say that I did not pay you within 30 days. First, give me the right banking details, and then day one starts. So I just think about that. I'm just thinking from the public's point of view. You give the notes there, but I don't think it's fair on you to say that you have not paid in the 30 days, because that person only sent it day 10th. Then that is my day number 1. So just some thinking around that. Members, over to you. Did I ask all the questions now? I always give you opportunity, but there was no question, so I'll give over for them to just to answer CEO or. Okay, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So on page 84, the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. One of the board members were meant to go abroad last year. We registered him for the conference, and then he cancelled the conference. It was just under 10,000 Rand for the conference, and because the board didn't decide to cancel it, he decided himself to cancel it. We then considered it to be fruitless and wasteful, and we claimed the money back from the board member, and he paid back the 10,000 Rand. So that's the story there. And then as far as the invoices, we agree with you, sir, but unfortunately, it says that 30 days from the invoice date. And so when you receive the invoice date, that's when it starts running. But in these cases here, it was outside our control itself, as you said. So we would have to have a look at give better explanations there or to that effect. But that's effectively what happens, in practice. Yeah, sorry.
Did you understand my point?
I understand your point.
Yeah, no, I just want to bring that. I'm not so it's out of your control, but I'm just thinking it's unfair. If you look at that, so I'm just helping you there to say maybe you must look at something else there. Okay, that members is then part E. We're going to part F, 88 to 152 members. Is there any questions with part F? Member Pet Lekker is first. Member Nkontlo second. And then if there's not other members, then I'll throw in my 2. But the department, I'm going to give Member Lekker first and Member Nkontlo. Over to you, Member Lekker.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on page 102 on the financial information. I've noticed, Chair, that there's a huge chunk that goes to compensation of employees as compared to the actual service delivery. I just want to get in terms of the details and the thinking that goes on with this. What is the plan in ensuring that there's enough budget for service delivery? As you would have noted that there seems to be an issue, particularly with this specific aspect, which I referred to in my previous question. So I want to get an understanding, the thinking beyond this, because if also you take a good look, even in terms of the payments payments for capital assets, still the compensation of employees is on top there. Then the second one, Chair, is around the retention of surplus funds. I see there's been no adjustment on it. Can we get details as to what exactly does this mean? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Nkondlo, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. My first one is on page 99, under expenditure. If colleagues can just explain the expenditure on rental expenses and the travel and subsistence, which looks as if they had actually spiked between the previous year and the year under review. The second one is on page 127. Please give us some insight about this legal proceedings and what is happening with this case currently. I'm interested to know what were the details of this particular case. And it seems the matter is still not settled, if I understand it well, that there is still some legal costs that are still to be paid, or maybe they have been paid because the timeline there is the 1st March 2024.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so my one was also that legal one of 127. It's just that the appeal was upheld with a cost, and the order of the court of quo was set aside. And then maybe just 149 about the last, it's note 38, right at the bottom, forfeiture of illegal gambling proceeds. How is this calculated and who forfeited this amount? If you can just answer that. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the questions. Why the compensation for employees is higher? I'm going to ask the CEO to respond to that. And then also the adjustments on the surplus, I'll also ask the CEO to also respond to that. The question regarding the legal case and the explanation, ask Ms. Hartman to address that for the members. And also the explanation of the rental and the travel expenses. I also ask the CEO to respond to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So with regards to the question on page 127, that litigation matter pertained to triple BE conditions which the board imposed on license holders during 2017. They then took the board to court, saying that the decision was unlawful and they wanted the decision to be set aside. So the whole process was followed, and in the Supreme Court of Appeal, the appeal was upheld in the sense that the court declared that the license conditions to be invalid. And the court set out a basis and a four-step process in which the board must follow when implementing conditions of this nature. That line where it speaks about the bill of costs is just an explanation of the cost that had to be paid because cost was awarded against the board. So that amount of the 3656 had to be paid for that matter, and then there's a bill of costs that must still be taxed. So there's still an amount that is outstanding where we're waiting for clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. So the board is a regulator, and it regulates with its personnel. So the personnel is the biggest asset that the board has, and so therefore all our services are basically conducted by our employees, and therefore the employees become the bigger cost. We don't have to put up anything other than us employees going out there and actually either auditing or setting up our services in the industry. So that's why our employee costs are the biggest component of our cost, because that is where our greatest asset. The retention of surplus. So the minister approved the retention of in previous years retention of our surplus to be able to buy our own building. So for the 2 years running, the surpluses we had built up to 31 million rand, and that was in ring fenced to buy a building. We bought the building, I think, for 25 million rand, and the Department of Infrastructure agreed to basically fix up the building for us. So they sat for a whole year not telling us anything, and we waited for them to come and do it because they would project manage the things for us, but we'd still pay the costs, but they would project manage the item for us. And after a year, after more than a year, they told us they're not going to help us. We must do it ourselves. Effectively, we are told that we're not a government department, and therefore the departments of the government is not at our disposal. And effectively, we now had to go out after more than a year of trying to fix up a building. So the retention of the costs was the balance of the original amount ring fence for the building that we need to use now to fix up our building. And so that's why we're retaining those costs. Yeah. And then the rental expenses. So the board used to enjoy accommodation that was funded by the Department of Infrastructure, financed by PT, but the department paid things for us. And then when our lease came to an end, they wouldn't fund anything further, and so we had to fund our own costs after that, and that is where the rental expenses came in. We then moved over to a new building, even though it wasn't done, to try and save costs, but we had to pay another couple of months simply because we had to evacuate the building before they could fix up the building, and then we rented some parking space at the moment while they're busy fixing up the building. So that's the rental cost. And the travel effectively was just transporting our furniture either to the warehouse or to our new building. And that was the cost of transporting it out of the building because we had to empty the building out and move our furniture to the new site. And that was the transport cost that came about. Thank you.
Forfeiture and gambling proceeds. How's it calculated on note 38? The question I asked. The last line on note 38.
Sorry, Chair, could you just give us the page?
Page 149. Forfeiture of illegal gambling proceeds. I ask, how is this calculated and who forfeited this amount?
So what happens is that when we go and raid illegal site, the funds that we find in the machines or whatever is then forfeited effectively, and that's the monies that are forfeited. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Is there any other questions? I'm going to ask. I'm going to give Member Van Wyk an opportunity. I just want to follow up, and then I'll give Member Van Wyk opportunity. Just again on the legal proceeding provisions. Just tell me quickly. The board made that decision, and they were taken to court. Is there guidelines or policy legislation that they, this is the legislation, or this is the policy, or this is the guidelines that we made this decision on? Because, now you are taken to court, and now, 356,000 later. So I just want to think, what provision is there where the board made that decision for them to be taken to court? Follow up? Just hang on, Member Conte's got a follow up
on the same one, Chair. I really would want to understand the substance of the judgment. Because it says that the board would have imposed BE conditions, which my assumption is that as per your mandate, you've got that right to do so. What exactly in the judgment? Was it the process? What exactly did the court declare unlawful? It's important. And how are you, I think, linked to your question? Because earlier on, I think when we're dealing with the performance information, one has raised this question. So I would want to be educated. Indeed, what is the new scope of what the court said you ought to do?
Yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So just to begin at the start, in terms of the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Act, the board is empowered to impose license conditions. So in this particular matter, or in general, the board wanted to comply with the BBB Act and transformation that is required by all entities in South Africa, and to make sure that all our license holders then implement and comply with the BBBE requirements. So the board then decided, held various consultations with license holders to inform the license holders, this is what the board is planning to do. There was discussions that was entered into, and then based on what the BBBE codes were or are, the board then imposed a particular level on the license holders. So on casinos, there was a level 2 that was imposed. On bookmakers, a level 5, bookmakers and manufacturers, and then as well as on the route operators. So the casinos then took the board to the court because they felt that the board was not entitled to impose a particular level on the license holder. Because in the BBB Act, they stipulated, one of the arguments was that in the BBB Act, there is nowhere where it's stipulated what a particular level an entity needs to be. And they also indicated that the board is not empowered in terms of the Western Cape Gambling and the Racing Act to impose BBBE conditions specifically. So despite the fact that the casinos were compliant and was actually a level 1, which is a higher level than what the board required them to be, they still felt that they wanted to take the board to court in order to get clarity in terms of the fact that they're saying that the board is not empowered to impose a particular level. And I think the reason for that was because of the fact that if you don't comply, the license holders are scared that if they don't comply with a particular level that is indicated in the license conditions, that they are clearly then at risk of losing the license or the license being suspended or revoked. And one of the arguments was also that there is certain things that are outside of their control that affects a particular level. So they took the board to court in terms of that arguments. So like I said, the board is entitled to make license conditions, but it is so that our act does not specify that the board can impose BBBE related conditions. So in the National Gambling Act, there is a provision that says that the board must, when a license is granted, the board can impose, can consider criteria of Black economic empowerment and competition-related issues together with some other criteria. And then the argument was, but we are casinos where, and our licenses has been granted, let's say in 1997 already, prior to when the BE Act came into existence, even prior to the National Gambling Act coming into existence. So we already licensed, so the board can't at this stage ex post facto come and implement conditions of this nature on our license. And then there were certain arguments that were raised about the BBBE Act. So Section 10 of the BBBE Act does stipulate that when granting a license, public entities can set criteria. So there was a whole argument about Section 10 of the BBBE Act and whether it found application to this particular matter due to the fact that the licenses had already been granted at the stage when the new legislation or the BBBE Act was implemented. And at the end, the court found that, and as I explained, there was, according to us, a consultation process undertaken because we did liaise with the license holders and, received their comments and considered that before imposing these conditions. The court, however, was of the view that the board did not consult the license holders and that a blanket approach was taken by the board when implementing or when imposing these conditions. And that is why the board then considered that the decision taken was an invalid decision. And then they set aside the license conditions. although the court then did, in terms of Section 54 of the National Gambling Act, they did indicate the process that needs to be followed when implementing conditions. So you can do it when a new license is granted. There's certain steps in that needs to be followed in terms of that. Thank you.
Very much. I know this legislation, but that's why I couldn't understand when I read it, so you explained it now to us. Thank you very much. Member Van Wyk, waiting for a long time. Over to you, Member Van Wyk.
Thanks, Chair. I must say, Chair, I'm a little bit confused about this whole aspect of the new office building and the rental and the lease on the property. If we look at page 86, and that is now in the previous section, is the end of E, under supply chain management, there is acquisition of new office accommodation, which is referred to as 23.3 million. There's also reference to lease of office accommodation of 1.7 million. If we then turn the page into F on page 88, under paragraph 8, there's a material impairment, property, plant and equipment. And they tell us there that there's a material impairment loss of 4.297 million rand on this property that was acquired. And the property was acquired in the 24 financial year, which is, to me, is a massive impairment. So in other words, this building was overpaid for. And if we turn to page 98, under the financial information, the statement of financial position at 31 March 2024, under non-current assets, we've got property, plant and equipment, which refers to 26.256 million. And that cross-refers us then to note 9. And note 9 sits on page 125. And that then refers to the fact that the building was bought, and the board paid non-refundable VAT in an amount of 3.3 million rand, which it not being a VAT vendor, and therefore it was not recoverable and then becomes a loss. So that indicates part of the overpayment that we've done now. When you're buying a building, you normally get a property valuer to place a value on the building before you acquire a building like that. Now, those details are in note 9 on page 124. So, then we get on page 136, we get an item called services in kind. That is a 4.076 million rand. And that also talks to the board acquiring a building at no cost managed by the Department of Infrastructure until 31 October 2023. So now there's some expense that's going out on that, which is also then included under general expenses on page 137, about a quarter of the page from the bottom. And then you turn the page to note 24, and that then refers to the various accommodation expenditure contractual amounts that was paid out. Now, I know we've had some explanation on this so far, but to me, if we've got to go and add up all these expenses, it would appear to me to be some fairly excessive amounts of expenditure that have been incurred on this building. And then, I probably ask the question, did the board actually need to buy a building, or could it have just rented space that it needed? Because there's a fair amount of money that does not seem to have been fruitfully expended. So, Chair, I think those are sort of my questions in trying to get a better understanding of what has actually taken place on this whole building that's been acquired. Thanks.
Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member, for the question. On page 125 of the bottom, material impairments losses is a brief explanation regarding to the losses, but I'm going to ask the CEO to give a little bit more detail on the loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So when making the decision, we considered the fact that over 5 years, we probably paid about 30 million rand, for, well, not us, but the Treasury to the DEO paid about 30 million rand in leasing the building. We found a building that was 20 odd million rand, and we thought that it was much less than five years. And in fact, it'll be our own building, and it'll be an asset for the Ministry of Government and the board. And the price was in much better to, rather than to lease for 5 years, because every 5 years you're going to pay about 25 to 30 million rand, while you get the building completely for the same price. So the board, at one stage, the government decided that public entities would not be registered with that. And so all our costs is greater by 15%. Everything we pay for now, we have to pay the extra 15%. So our budget basically is 50% less for the value that we can get because of that. So now on the building, we have to pay this 15% VAT, which you recognize as 3.3 million rand. And then there's a tenant that came with the building of about just under 2 million rand. And so the price then we bought was besides the actual cost, which you see in the fees, was also the VAT and the rental that we were going to receive up until next year, 2025. So when we value the building for the impairment costs, we look at the actual building value without any VAT, without any other costs, and therefore it's impaired by the VAT amount and the money we paid for the rental that we're receiving. So effectively, that is the impairment cost that we had. And then when we look at and then we have a building of our own that we can do. We can actually fix up the way we need it, and we'd have it till the end of days, effectively. Now, the Department of Infrastructure was not going to finance anything for us. They were not going to pay our utilities anymore. We would have to pay that ourselves if we were in a lease building or not, and therefore it'll be a sunk cost either way. We would still have to pay those costs. So there's nothing new. We would have to pay that in a lease or in our own building. What we had in those costs that you see there is that we had to leave by the end of November of last year, and so with a couple of months that we had to get out, and in the lessor needed a month to be able to fix up the building. We had to make a rental, had an agreement with him for the rental effect while we stayed there, and we were able to move out because nobody else was going to pay the cost. I think DOI had argued against the fact that originally they said they were going to help us move us out into a new building, and then they said they're not doing it, so we had to find those monies ourselves. And so those were the costs that you saw. And then for that period, after DOI had no longer then funded our accommodation, we had to pay for the utilities, we had to pay for the lease to have a building before we could move into our building, and when all the things came through, and we had to store our furniture until our tenant gets out, the tenant that came with the building. And as I said, we just got under 2 million rand in rental for that, and while we're busy fixing up the building to be able to make it completely compliant for us to move in. And then we have the process now that, as I said earlier on, that just over a year, the DRI said they're not going to assist us at all, and we had to now find a means to be able to fix up the building, to get our own project managers, and then fund the repairs or the fixing up of the building at an increased cost, which goes we're a year and a bit later than that. So the prices also went up, and that is effectively the reason for all these costs that you see running around. And I trust that assists. Thank you.
Member Petrus, your hand is up. Member Van Wyk, are you covered?
Yes, I'm covered for now. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Petrus.
Thank you, Chairperson. Sound is a little bit bad here on my side. Chairperson, we can stay there on page 136. Note 19 and 21, please, Chairperson. I see there's a grant that is that there's no conditions. And then there's the sponsorships received, Chairperson.
You want clarity on that?
Yeah, from where did we did they receive that sponsorships?
Yeah, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. So the board hosted a responsible gambling summit, and the industry, we decided the industry needs to fund it because it's actually a responsible gambling summit for the whole of the industry. And so we received sponsorships for the summit. We invited, I think, various members of government. We invited all the gambling boards. We invited the industry to come along and then participate in the summit, where we actually divide some responsible gambling criteria, and I think it's ongoing to the effect that we're meeting again to be able to come through on any resolutions taken at the summit. So the sponsorship then came from the industry in part to host the summit. So that's where it came from. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I did, I think. Thank you very much. Member Peters, you covered?
Yes, Chairperson, and that government grant, Chairperson.
Grant, yes. Yeah, the
Yes.
government grant.
Yeah. So effectively, the board in its act had enough funding to be able to be financially self-sufficient. When the exclusivity fee fell away, the board could no longer fund its operations, and the board is not able to solicit for any funding outside of what's in the act. At that stage, the government grant came to be able to fund the shortfall for our operations, and there was no conditions. It's simply there for the operations to measure. And at the end of the day, if you have a surplus, unless you ask for retention, the money goes back into the fiscus. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think, members, is that it for the board? Member Nkontlo?
My last question, Chair, can I ask on page 136? Can the board just explain, I think it's a leave pay and overtime payments. I'm just looking at these figures from the previous year. Is this your normal average payments you would do, or what caused this spike of leave pay? I think in this reported financial year, if you can just give me some clarity there. Thank you, Chair.
Got that, note number 22, you've got that, eh? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the board financials are prepared on the accrual basis. That means that it doesn't go on a cash basis. So effectively, the numbers you see in its financial statements are amounts that have been paid and is payable. So we would not have physically spent cash on that thing. So at the end of our financial year, we calculate the possible leave pay. If someone left tomorrow, what would we have to pay out to that person? And this is the figure that comes in there. But after that financial year, up until June, they have to take the leave. By the end of June, or else they forfeit it. So by the end of June, people would have taken the leave, and the cash would not have left the board. But if the person had left on the 1st of April, following the financial year, we would have to pay that person money. But effectively, the money doesn't get paid. We're simply putting the cost there that is that's associated with the revenue. So that actually doesn't become a cash expenditure at all, because most people by the end of June, they either forfeit the leave or they've taken the leave. Thank you.
You also asked the overtime payments, eh? The overtime payments? The increase in the overtime payments?
Thank you, sir. So as we had advised, we have constraints. We don't have enough people to do a bidding, or at least our mandate, and so people have to work overtime to be able to perform it. And I can tell you that we have quite dedicated staff. Some staff sit there till 11 o'clock at night, till on Saturdays and Sundays, to be able to ensure that the license that needs to go out is prepared, that the board has a pack to be able to make deliberations in that. So we'd have to pay these people the overtime. So these overtime of our general employees, it doesn't go to senior managers at all. But unfortunately, at this stage, they need to work overtime to make sure that all that our increased license holders or number of license holders are worked is performed. And so unfortunately right now, that is a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Petrus?
Chairperson, I don't want to take us back, but I want you as chairperson to go into that. I can't understand that there's a grant that we get. We still have grants that is unconditional, chairperson.
No, I think they explained it quite nicely. It's operational, and that's why there's no conditions attached to it. So that's quite self-explanatory. I'm happy with that, Member Petrus.
Okay, then. That's fine.
Minister?
Chair, maybe if I could assist, and I apologize in advance to the board and provincial treasury, I'm going to start butchering some finance language here. So we essentially have all of the different levies and license fees that we get, and that's separate to the taxes that we get in terms of gambling, taxes and levies and so on. The taxes specifically that we get goes into the Provincial Revenue Fund, which through the budget process within Provincial Treasury then gets reallocated to whatever programs in government. But the levies and the fees and so on, what we essentially do with the provincial grant that we give to the board is we give the board money for their operation. So when you see a compliance officer at the board, when you see an investigator at the board, when you see someone working on audit or risk or fraud, or a lawyer, or someone who has to check the conditions on someone's license, all of that money obviously requires it requires someone to pay for it, and the board doesn't have all of the money to order to pay for all of those operations. So for example, when we hear the board talk about things like self-sufficiency, it's also because we then give the board also money back for the operations. So yes, it is unconditional, but what we do is the board has the it's weird because the board has a board, but the board then does the oversight to make sure that we have, thank you so much, as we have legislation because it's a 3C entity. I'm not sure if the SCOPA has gone through the difference between the 3C entities and some of the other entities in the province. But what that essentially means is we give money to the board in order to have the operation, so that if, for example, if you call in something that is illegal gambling and they have to do a raid and conduct a raid, the board then goes and conducts that raid, and that raid obviously costs money. And that's my layman attempt to explain the matter. Thank you, Chair.
The papers are covered there now?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's the end of the board. That's the end of the board. It's almost like your job is done for the day, is not for the year. Concluding remarks. Did you want us to do some concluding remarks, Minister, and then we can go over to the department. Thank you.
Chair, I don't have anything to add. I just want to say thank you to the board for all of their hard work. What we've seen, especially over the COVID period and beyond COVID, is that online sports betting has really skyrocketed due to people from COVID onwards not going to physical buildings. And with that, what that has meant is it really has put a lot of pressure on the board to make sure that the licensee holders are compliant and that they're able to check and double check for legal versus illegal. And for that, I really would like to thank the board for all of their hard work. And again, just to congratulate them on their clean audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to thank the committee for their oversight, and thank you for keeping us in check and for the questions, and also the department for their support as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are excused, and then we'll go to next minute. We'll go over to the department. Thank you very much. We're ready to go. We're going to do the introductions again. My name is Ferlin Christians. I'm chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, next to Mr. Dustin Davids and Ms. Lynette Kruter. See here, and then we're going to ask the members. Members, if we can do the members and the members online after the members, then we go to the department. Is that fine, Member Van Wyk? We'll do that after the members. We introduce the members, and then we'll go to the minister and the department. Thank you very much. Members, over to you.
Afternoon, I'm Nomin Kondlo.
Afternoon, Benedicta van Minnen.
Afternoon, Pat Lekker.
Members online?
Leon van Wyk, I'm a member of the committee. Good afternoon, Chair and Minister and senior officials and other honourable members. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
That's Member Basil Petrus. He's got a bad connection there. But thank you very much, members, for introductions. Minister, HOD, over to you for introductions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've made some introductory remarks earlier this afternoon, and I've done the same this morning. So I think the team is ready to go for questions.
Introductions for the team, because for the record purposes, the names, Minister, the names. Okay.
Sorry, I just thought to myself, I'm saying the same thing for the third time. But Deirdre Baartman, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Julinda Gantana, Head of the Department.
Good afternoon, Isaac Smith.
Good afternoon, everybody. Anne-Marie Smith, the CFO.
Good afternoon, members. Aziz Hardin, Head of Program 4.
Good afternoon, everybody. Shine Kasim.
Good afternoon, Nadia Ibrahim.
Good afternoon, Leanne Kibito.
Good afternoon, Annalise Pick.
Good afternoon, Paul Pinar.
Good afternoon, Steve Kenyon.
Good afternoon, Taryn van der Rede.
Good afternoon, Santi Roy.
Hello, everybody. It's Nadia Ismail here.
Good afternoon, Mandis Nongonyan.
Good afternoon, Ziad Majid.
Afternoon, Michelle Nicholas.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Nadia Rinquest, Public Policy.
Good afternoon, Malcolm Boyson, Fiscal Policy.
Good afternoon, Adila Abu.
Good afternoon, Tumegan Plaza.
Afternoon, Shaida Wali.
Good afternoon, Ashley Ludovic.
Good afternoon, Grant Caswell.
Thank you very much at the back, Agent.
Good afternoon, Beauty Miende.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Tumisana Nkokwani.
Online.
Afternoon, Chair. Francois Barnard, Audit Committee, Provincial Treasury.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Blanche Cancross, Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Richard van Rensburg, Provincial Forensic Services.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Sally Martin, Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Chair members. Liana Downers, Internal Audit.
Member Johnson, just introduce yourself.
Peter Johnson, Member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Thank you very much, everybody, for the introductions. Minister, over to you on the HOD. I know the HOD kept hers for now, so over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I think as Minister has already indicated, for the Provincial Treasury, it is important that we maintain a level of continuity, certainty and stability in the system. Being where we find ourselves and the period under review, that has been an extremely challenging time, given if we look at our risk and in terms of the macroeconomic framework and what has happened within that space, the year under review has been extremely at times uncertain and less predictable. And it was really important that as a provincial treasury, we continue to set the example. And I think, as ministers already indicated, if one builds a reputation of getting a clean audit, it becomes more and more difficult to maintain that. But also, how do we then really respond to the call for direct and the lived reality, to respond to the lived reality of the citizen. And I think within that context, we have set ourselves some ambitious targets, and being mindful of the fact that we need to keep the system stable, but at the same time being able to ensure that we continue and that we enable service delivery. But this is the team, Chair, that and we're tabling the annual the financial statement and the annual report today. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We're going to do part C and then part E and then part F. 2 questions per member. And then if there's follow-up, we'll do that. I must say from our side as COPA, we will always look at you as you've got a higher standard because of the guidance, direction this department must give to departments and municipalities. So you will always be seen as that, you need to set the trend. And thank you. I must just say thank you to your DDG for giving us a briefing, Mr. Smith, giving us a briefing. We said we've got new COPA members. Please come, and thank you, HOD, for that. So you're going to see now, did we do our homework after that briefing? Because you said, look at this, look at that, and so on. So we looked at everything, and now the question. So members, over to you. Part C, can I throw it first? Or you want to throw it first? Let me throw it first because if you don't know, but I follow the mornings in my office. So just to be, I'm going to leave the others to that, but the concerning thing for me, if we look at emerging risk, is your employees. That's a massive risk. And Minister, you can say this is the leanest department in the country, but it's worrisome. You can be lean and mean, but there's a toll on your staff. So I'm just, if you can just give us some plan on that. You know, you're losing staff. Now you cannot compete with municipalities, that I understand. But if staff is overworked, work long hours, and like you said this morning, sometimes they do 3 to 4 people's work. So that is my biggest concern, because this is the engine room of this province. You know, if you fall, municipalities fall, departments fall. So if you can just give us some assurance on that risk that the PT is facing. Members, I just want to throw that in to see that I was present this morning. So over to you. Member Kondo, you were present, I know. Thank you.
Hey, Chair, I almost used that thing we do in that NGO of mine, but I knew it's going to be unparliamentary if I say it here. so you've covered me on that question and that risk. Chair, for me, perhaps I want to start with what the AG shared with us earlier on, and I'm sure it's already shared with the department. I think on my 2 questions, I think on there, I'm not sure whether the department does have the briefing note of the AG that we have. I just want to know how far are you, because the AG would have said that by the 31st of March, Treasury is encouraged to continue to assess and identify remedial action through the SIME process regarding the 4 municipalities with unfunded budgets. I think it's an issue that you are aware of. So I'm just trying to understand how far are you with this issue. And the next one, I think, is the disciplinary boards of the other, I think it's also 4 municipalities, if not 5, from Matsikama to Beaufort West. How far are you with what the AG would have shared with yourselves? Are these 2 issues matters that you are dealing with, and any indication by when will this be concluded? I think those are my first 2 for now, Chair.
You members? Member Pat Lekker? No, nobody online? Member Lekker?
Thank you, Chair. Mine is on page 94 on fraud and corruption, and linking that to page 95 on cases that have been closed during the year under review. I want to check, isn't there, or is there a correlation between the staff members exiting the department and the amount of cases that we seem to be having in the department? Maybe can I use or borrow from member Nominkondo that I be schooled on this particular process, because even though I tried to follow this morning's session, I did it via YouTube, and at some point I disconnected. So I just want to get an understanding as to what actually is happening on this table. Where there are cases that are listed, is there no correlation between that and the staff members that are exiting the department? Thank you.
Then I'll throw my second one in now. It's also, according to the Order General, the PT is encouraged to continue to monitor and support municipalities to comply with the regulations towards professionalism of local government sector within the Western Cape. If you can just elaborate on that. I think we've worked it out. Member Lekker works on the fraud cases. Member Nkondla works on the limited bidding, and I work on the 30 days. So we've worked out a strategy here. Thank you very much. Over to you, Minister. Actually,
Chair, and I'm sure the team with the respective matters will come in. I'll just say some few introductory remarks regarding the talent management and staff specifically, and then I'm just going to ask if talent Nadia can come in as well for us, please. So one of the things that actually occurred when I first entered into this role is I said to HOD is, colleagues, we have a talent retention problem. And it's various reasons. Some reasons are municipalities that are paying almost double what we are paying as a government. And that's not just in provincial treasury, that's across departments. And I do think that as a government, and maybe other governments might feel the same, I don't know, we do need to start actually having a conversation with DPSA and how salaries get put together and looking at our salary structures and maybe through the Department of the Premier because their department works on HR and vacancies and filling posts and so on. I think there is a need for a conversation regarding benchmarking of salaries in government. And when I say government, I mean national, I mean provinces, I mean local government. Because even within the finance sector, we're seeing people are moving. They're not leaving the sector, but they're moving from government to government. And in some municipalities, they might go for the salary, but some municipalities, those officials might come back for the culture in the Provincial Treasury Western Cape government. And those are some of the conversations we've been having internally with the team. Some other reasons in terms of this vacancies and so on is when you look at some of the job descriptions of we do in the Western Cape government, and it's been also partly as a result of cutting costs over the years in order so that we don't compromise on service delivery within the Western Cape government. But when you look at some of the job descriptions in comparison to other provinces, you will find that we might not be able to necessarily fill a vacancy because the person that's applying doesn't have number 2 and number 3 of the job description, or they have number 1 and number 2, but they don't have number 3. But if they had to go to another province, there might be 3 people employed to do that one position that we have at Provincial Treasury. And something that procurement Nadia was telling me about was is about how another province actually came to come visit our procurement client center and how we might be working with that particular province. I don't want to give the cat out of the bag as yet, as things are not concluded yet. But that particular provinces came with all of their senior managers in procurement, and our team was very junior. And I mean, when I say junior, I mean title. I don't mean in experience. But the experience and the knowledge that our team had in comparison and the work that they did in comparison to that other province's senior managers, they were either at the same level or higher. So you see that difference where other provinces like, actually, does this particular job description do what we do at a senior level? And then there's another conversation that we have to have on the possibility of using some technology in order to alleviate some of the workload of our officials. And this is across government as well. And I always like to say, Chair, as much as I am always a proponent of technology, you will see it is always my friends that will always tell me what I must go buy in terms of technology. I'm not exactly in my personal capacity the most afraid with technology. But what I do believe is that technology shouldn't actually be there to do the art and the gardening and spending time with family and friends for us. Technology is supposed to be there to do the dishes and clean the house so that we can do art and we can do the gardening and we can spend more time with our friends and family. And that's what I truly believe that technology can assist us with. So how do we use it to make ourselves more efficient, to try and alleviate some of the workload of our officials so that they can focus on doing the truly important things within our departments and within our government. And that is a real conversation we're going to have because with technology, we're also going to have to start thinking more innovatively about what are the guardrails as well when it comes to technology so that when we implement some of these things, that we do so in a responsible manner. I'm just going to ask Talent Nadia just to come in with our talent management and plan related. I apologize. We have 3 Nadias in the department. Ishmael and Ibrahim and Rehnquist. So I tend to say our budget Nadia and our talent Nadia and our procurement Nadia, but I do it with the utmost of respect. But just if we can just get some information on just the talent management, because I did ask the team, we need to put together a plan to deal with this. And people might be leaving for various different reasons. And what is it that we can do in the interim to try and alleviate some of the workload of our staff? And then I'm sure the team, if we can just assist regarding the municipalities, the MFMA team, and HR regarding fraud and corruption and number of cases, and the professionalism in local government. Also, I guess the MFMA team as well can just assist us there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, MEC. So this is Talent Nadia speaking, also known as Nadia with the 2 A's. So you are correct. Provincial Treasury is experiencing, this is one of our major risks, and that is staff shortages, especially in our critical areas. And it has the unfortunate consequence of our staff being overworked, or as you say, taking on the workload of at least 3 or 4 people and having to work long hours. And this strain definitely impacts our ability to maintain efficiency and to meet critical deadlines, but yet we still do. If you looked at our Part B, you will notice that our indicators met arrived at 94%, while our vacancy rate is at 22%. And you may ask the question, like, do you actually need to fill these posts if you're doing so well to meeting those targets? But the flip side is that this manifests itself in the turnover rate, because our staff are leaving us at an astronomical rate, and there's not much that we can do about it. But from a financial point of view, because the remuneration that they are being offered outside isn't something that we can compete with. So this is where our talent management strategy comes in. We have developed a very comprehensive talent management strategy, which will hopefully play a role in impacting the way we do things around the provincial treasury, and indirectly retaining our staff through the focusing of the development of our staff, our well-being of our staff, particularly within the environment within the provincial treasury where our staff are overworked, and there are a number of key challenges. So these are the elements within the strategy, focusing on rewards and recognition systems. Also, this has been a tough cookie for us because we're limited and our hands are hamstrung in that we can't venture into the financial rewards and recognition, and therefore we had to really be creative in terms of how we explore the non-financial rewards and recognitions. So we will be looking at how we're going to be optimally utilizing our workforce plan to see how we can respond to it. Succession planning as well as career pathing also plays a major role in ways in which we can address the risk that we are faced with. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadia. Then I'm going to go to page 95, Member Lekker. Ask whether there's a correlation between the staff exiting and the cases listed on page 95. And the straightforward and simple answer in this instance is no. The first case is actually emanates from a third party where we had deductions from Provincial, where the employer indicated that they did not give permission for those deductions to take place. And then the second case was in terms of laptops, but I think the CFO can also expand a bit on that. And then just in terms of the unfunded budgets, Stephen, will you deal with that? And then Aziz, there was a question on impacts. Will you cover that one? Thanks.
So thank you, HOD. Just to give a brief update on the unfunded budgets, and it's always a little bit tricky reporting on the annual report because it technically ends at the end of March, right, as the year under review, and municipalities obviously table their next budget at the end of March. But last year we had 5 unfunded budgets in the province, which is the 4 debt relief municipalities that we discussed earlier. Beaufort West, Matsikama, Cedarburg, Kannaland, and then also Lanesburg had an unfunded budget last year. In this year's budget assessments of those 5, we're very proud that Cedarburg was able to move to a funded position. So they really show the success. And Matsikama is also funded in the outer years. So they have a clear path to funded. And Beaufort West is maintaining pace with its financial recovery plan. So it's kind of on track, those ones. But we are concerned that other municipalities, Knysna and Teerwaterskloof, adopted unfunded budgets. But that is all news in the new financial year, not in the period that's reported on in this annual report. Thanks.
As to the question for the Municipal Public Accounts Committee as well as DBs, so our sister department, the Department of Local Government, is responsible for monitoring the establishment and the constitution of the municipal public accounts. Provincial Treasury monitors the work of the disciplinary boards, and we ask to be invited to either be a member of the DB, or if we are not a member of those DBs, we also ask that they provide us with all of the information for the discussions that has happened, as well as the consequence management of the disciplinary boards. Provincial Treasury also takes the responsibility of training the disciplinary boards, as well as besides training, we've also, as an example, we've had National Treasury coming to train both the DBs as well as the impacts, and that just happened as early as last week, to ensure that the disciplinary boards understand what their role and responsibilities are in terms of ensuring that there's consequence management with any allegations leveled at the municipality. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. As the HOD has indicated, the 2 fraud cases that was investigated by the Provincial Forensic Services was related to the alleged fraudulent reduction on the partial system from one of the employees. I think as the HOD has indicated that obviously that is not within the control of the Provincial Treasury. National Treasury manages the transversal systems, so it's definitely not somebody within the Provincial Treasury that did the fraudulent deductions. It was from a person within the Provincial Treasury, paid on partial. On the second one was, as indicated, the alleged theft of laptops at PT. It was in one of our open plan areas. It was 4 laptops that was stolen or taken on 4 different occasions, all within the open plan of one of the units. And obviously what we also did is we looked at the access, because the office is managed by access control, so you can only access the open plan with an access card, and all indications were that the access card belonged to a specific I don't want to say official, but from from SAPS, I don't know if I could say that, but actually, but it was quite a lengthy investigation by Provincial Forensic Services, and obviously they've also indicated that we needed to report it to the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation or the Independent Policing Investigation Directorate. We have done that, and we have not received a response from the Independent Police Investigating Directorate, but we have also, that area has also been modernized, and there's again, the access control very strictly, and the persons within the Treasury as a whole has been awareness created that they must please lock away their laptops, and we also bought locks for the officials, and also we are in the process of also installing CCTV cameras in that specific area, because that was one of the areas within the Provincial Treasury that did not have CCTV cameras. So those were the 2 issues that was investigated by the Forensic Services, and that was closed by them.
Very much, members. Is there follow-ups on that, on those questions? Member Lecker, you got a follow-up, and then Member Kondo. I just want to say, page 101, there was an outstanding scope resolution there, but I just spoke to Mr. Davids. That was done on the 28th of the 2nd. So that was dealt with. So that matter's closed. It says here, resolved. No, it's resolved yes now, but because the book was printed and this was done afterwards, just to put the members, because I checked that immediately, and Mr. Davids then said that meeting took place. Thank you. Member Pat Lecker and then Member Nkontla.
No, thank you, Chair. Mine was going to ask if there were any consequences as a result of the loss of the 4 laptops. So probably the resolution will cover all of that. I hope so. Thank you.
Member Nkontla.
Chair, I think the issue of the employees, the staff issue, I think for me, this was supposedly to have been part of the risks. I'm not sure why it is not. As I've seen it, I think in the previous annual reports, as a matter that is a risk, as I think you articulated it very well. And I'm hoping through our resolutions, we will have to ask the minister, with all the things that the department has reported, talent management, succession planning, and all of that. At the end of the day, colleagues, what we need is how this risk is being managed. So I think it's a matter, Chair, that I think we really must just be on top of it, so that we do not deal with the crisis that we have been here and we have been seeing it. And I remember the minister, when we were asking in the previous, was sitting in that chair as a chairperson of the finance committee. I'm not saying SCOPA now, finance committee. So I'm hoping that, her eagerness to resolve this matter is even going to be more, speedily than any other minister, because she understands both this side and the other side. So that was just my comment, Chair, that I think the matter must be part of our SCOPA resolutions.
I'm going to remember, Peter, an opportunity. I also think, a very important point was made that you also look at non-financial rewards. Everything is not about money. It's about environment, place of employment. It's a lot of stuff. So I know the minister is going to, because we're going to call you in sometime to say if there's any progress, but we'll talk about that later. But it's more about just money. Minister, you just want to respond before I give Member Peters over to you?
There was just a concern as to where it is noted in chapter C. It's on page 93 at the bottom, the last paragraph.
Yes.
But we're definitely, Chair, please do call us back, because this is a matter that is high on our priority list in order to find a solution for it.
No, it's under the key emerging risk, and they're looking at the following financial year. So that is where I got it from, but I put it with that. But it's fine. We on the same point. Member Petrus, over to you.
Yes, Chairperson, I want to go back to that question or comment that you make about that resolutions of the previous committee. I think that was important. I was not part of that meeting, Chairperson, but it is in the it is part of this document. So why can't we have that minutes of that meeting? If it was resolved, the outcome of that that was supposed to be part of this meeting of today.
Thank you, Member Peters. That was the previous COPA dealt with that, but I'm sure we can get a presentation and we can get that. There's no problem. SCOPA make resolutions and we give it to the departments, and then we resolve the matters as go. That was a resolution of the previous SCOPA, and they had the meeting. That was one of the things they, because I saw the SCOPA had to give a date, and they gave a date, they met, and the matters resolved. But we'll, in committee after this, we'll discuss that further. Is that fine with you, member?
Yes, Chairperson, thank you.
We are trying to make everybody happy. Not the department, our members. Department must answer. Joking. Members, so is there any other questions on governance? Can we move to part E? Let's move to part E. Page 143 to 152. Member Lekker and then Member Kontler. You're going to ask the questions because this is short and I won't have opportunity to ask, but it's fine. Go ahead, Member Lekker. Your microwave. Microphone, I know it's micro, but microwave warms you up. Microphone.
Thank you. I want to go back to the issue of the disciplinary action, page 146, Chair. I want to check this issue that relates actually page 150. Page 150, table 2.1 on the late or non-payment of suppliers. What are the reasons for the 15 invoices to be paid late? If I can get a response to that one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kontler.
Thank you, Chair. I just want on page 145, maybe if the department can just help me understand, the CFO is here, on the condonement of irregular expenditure. If you can just provide us what was the rationale behind this. As I think if one looks at what are the reasons for this irregular expenditure, I'm not sure why it had been condoned. And then I think at under 1.1.6, you then see that one is approved where 50,000 must be paid by the official of the 225,000. Perhaps you can explain the logic of these decisions so that we can understand. The second one, Chair, is that on page 150 to I think 152 on the procurement by other means. I just want to check whether, firstly, these transactions are actually the same as the ones recorded in 137 under consultant appointments using appropriated funds. Are they the same? Because I see some of the firms that are in that list are also, in the same table in 150 to 152. And in that score, actually, you can just explain. I remember when we were dealing, Chair, with this issue of contract expansion or variation. I think we were informed, don't remember the department, that there's actually a threshold between your original contract value and the percentage at which you can extend, a contract. Is there something of that nature? And if so, percentage-wise, what is that percentage? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just to say, with the 30 days, that Member Lekker was referring to, the Racing and Gambling Board gave a nice description at the bottom. Here's no description. And we've asked all the departments to give a description there. Remember, it's a public document. We ask the questions, the public can't ask those questions. So, and it's not a lot of, it's not, people will say not a lot of invoice, but and then I always also ask the department, do you look at, is this company, if he missed that payment, will he survive? Can he, if you don't pay on time? And many of the other departments told us they first look at, you know, if it's a big company, smaller companies, and they make sure that they pay the smaller companies first, that they can be sustainable going forward. So just your thinking around that, you know, because if you look at it, it says, according to this document, unpaid without dispute, unpaid in dispute. There's nothing there, 000, but above that, it says invoices paid after 30 days or agreed period, you know, so there's no explanation. So I am in the dark concerning that. Thank you. HOD, over to you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask the CFO just to deal with the 30-day payment. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. As indicated in the report, it's 15 payments. 13 of the payments was related to Trigon Travel. Trigon Travel is the travel agency that the department uses. We went through a tender process, a bid process, and Trigon Travel is the agency that we procure our all our traveling through. And it is as indicated, and maybe not indicated here, and maybe that's also good that we maybe in future also indicate what is the financial implication, because according to the calculations, it's in total, the department has paid 53,000 Rand not within the 30 days. So so that just also gives you a context. So it's 15 to Trigon Travel. Mostly it was the service charges that they ask. We also, they got a new, they implemented a new system for invoices, and they invoice, for example, first the hotels and the airlines, and then they do the for the transaction fees or the fees. So so we really struggled to reconcile all the invoices from Trigon, but we have now managed to reconcile. We've also got a dedicated person now working on the Trigon Travel, and I must add that I think for the last financial year, I think we've paid all our Trigon, current financial week, we paid all our Trigon invoices on time. Then the other two was also small payments to two different companies. What we've also indicated, we issued a finance instruction indicating what are the turnaround times, because obviously we need to get the signatures or the certification from the line managers to certify that the goods and services was delivered and received, and that usually takes a while. So we have also now implemented that with every invoice that we receive, it needs to go to a specific email address so that we can definitely manage all of the invoices. And then also the turnaround times is also communicated to the managers with each invoice that we send to them. And we've also indicated that if somebody is on leave, there needs to be an additional person that looks at those invoices. So I think that is just the functions that we put in place to ensure that we pay within the 30 days.
Then, Chair, through you, if I'm Aziz, maybe just speak to the framework, and then irregular, and then the CFO can then maybe just touch on the detail as it contains on page 145 on top. Thanks.
So National Treasury has issued a framework for irregular expenditure. In the past, all of our applications for irregular expenditure had to be sent to National Treasury to be considered for condonation. A few years ago, they issued a National Treasury instruction, which then delegated the power for condonation to the Provincial Treasury. The head of that condonement is the Minister of Finance in terms of value thresholds. If not the Minister of Finance, it's the head of department, provided that the department does a thorough investigation, and that's not just the Provincial Treasury. every irregular expense that comes before a condonation committee needs to have been investigated, and there are specific criteria that needs to be met before the condonation working committee looks at the irregular expenditure. So there is a framework, and all of the departments together with the public entities have been informed of that framework, so they follow the framework. And if everything is provided to the condonation working committee, there is senior staff from across provincial treasury units that looks at the application, considers it, considers the circumstances in which the irregular expenditure takes place, and then makes a recommendation to condone or do not condone. Should the committee not condone the irregular expenditure, it is sent back to the department for the head of the department to consider the condonation.
Maybe just also the process, because this is the overall process, but this is also the process that we have followed with the irregular expenditure. You will also see that we also look at, can we keep a person responsible? And that links to consequence management. Obviously, if we in the investigation or the assessment, we indicate that we received value for money, there's actually no person can be held responsible, then we don't go through the consequence management. But as Aziz has indicated, we go through an entire process, what we call also the determination process, to indicate, is it irregular expenditure or not? And maybe just answer the questions on.
Just maybe add to the committee there on page 145 at the top there, it provides detail in terms of its incident that makes up the 226 for the 2023-24 financial year. And that is the hosting of the event. And then there was issues in terms of obtaining approval prior to the hosting of the event. And then there was also irregular expenditure as a result of bookings made at a higher star graded establishment without approval to deviate from that. And then the third issue there is that domestic accommodation cost exceeding the maximum allowance rate that it provides for officials to stay when they on the road and travel. And then there is another incident where the 50,000 is emanating from, and that deals with issues that came up in our supply chain, and therefore, but that issue has not yet been concluded. So those are the reasons for the irregular expenditure and the part that was condoned. Thanks, Chair.
On the Member Kontlo from the supply chain management, so the information on 150 to 152, yes, you will see that there is a correlation between what we've indicated in the part D, the consultants, but you will also indicate that in the part D, it's all of the consultants, also those that we procured via a normal bidding process. You will see that the information provided on 150 to 152 is supply chain or procurement via other means, and other means could be, for example, a limited bid, or in our case, you will see majority of our business consultants or of analytic services, we get that through a transversal contract from the Department of the Premier. So there's a memorandum of agreement between the PT and CEI with regards to ICT requirements. They do the contracts and we ask for those services, and then they get an analyst from that contract to do the work for us. So that is what we call the other means of procurement. With regards to, I'm going to ask all the questions on this part. With regards to contract variations and expansions, the limit is 15%. So that is that you can, but then after that you need to inform the provincial treasury as well as the AG if the contract extensions is more than 15%.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, questions? Member Lecker and then Member Nkontlo after that. Member Lecker.
Thank you, Chair. Listening to the responses, I think I've got more questions than anything else. And clearly, there seems to be a disturbing pattern around non-compliance. There's a booking that is made at a higher star graded establishment. There's also exceeding maximum allowance rate. And I would want to think that a reasonable person or somebody who has been taken through the processes of supply chain and would have known what is expected. I don't know what happened here, but I want to assume that something just did not go well. And for that, in my little knowledge, where one has to account or pay for expenses that has not been authorized, has there been any thinking around ensuring that we recover the monies that was not supposed to have been spent under those circumstances, Chair? Thank you.
Member Nkontlo.
No, thanks, Chair. I think Member Lecker has covered me because I sincerely would, in asking that very question, which ones are recoverable, which ones are not, and what's the basis thereof? That's what you're asking. I think the process, colleagues, we do understand. And remember, even go to the SCOPA resolutions, you would have sent us the detailed process. So that we understand. We're asking this very decision in here so that we understand it better. But my one covered by Member Lecker on the irregular expenditure, please help me understand in applying the 15% threshold. Is it 15% threshold on the original contract value? And if so, just doing my own arithmetic, nothing fancy, I'm trying to understand from this silver solution, the extension there, when I look at it, from it to the value of the current contract expansion, including the previous contract expansion, unless I didn't do maths lit, I'm not a generation of maths lit. So unless indeed I'm failed by my mathematics, I'm trying to understand because I'm trying to apply exactly what you were saying. So what would have happened here in applying your 15% threshold?
Thank you very much, HOD.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Maybe let me start with Member Lecker's comment. I think the process that was explained to the committee, that's the very same process we followed, and the evidence that was then provided to the condonation working group was sufficient to come to a conclusion that the expenditure be condoned for the incidents that we listed here. There is one area where you will be able to see that there's a discrepancy between what was condoned, and that is where we have not yet concluded on. So the matter is still, we're still investigating that part. That is still ongoing. But what I can leave with the committee is that where we have requested as a vote for the condonation committee to look at the evidence provided, that evidence was sufficient to condone the irregular expenditure. Then I'm going to ask the CFO to.
Did you answer or not?
Or are you going to take that one, Isaac?
All right, thank you, Chair. So the one for security or silver solutions is in respect of the transversal security tender. As you would know or not, the new members may not know, the security tender, the transversal one, is under litigation for the last 2 to 3 years. We're now at the appeal stage, so we're not in the position to put a new tender at this point in place. So we had to keep the status quo remaining, hence the extension of Silver Solutions up until the end of this financial year, given that the outcome of the legal matter is not yet finalized in court. I think maybe the member is also asking about the 15% because I've indicated that you can extend until 15%. But if you extend beyond 15%, you have to inform the Provincial Treasury as an oversight body, as well as then the AG. So you can, but then when you do that, you need to inform PT as well as then the AG.
Yes, follow up, remember? Follow up. Report yourself. That's what you want to say. Go, member.
Okay, so you're saying if you go beyond 15%, you have to report. Under which provisions is that done? Is it a deviation? What is it? And what circumstances allows you in law to do that? I hear that there's a case specifically on this one. So I'm interested to understand, the broader framework, the legal framework that enables you to go beyond 15%, the circumstances, and what are the, those provisions, so that at least when I look at also other books, I know what to ask. You see? Thank you very much.
Thank you. You just used, I know we did it at the previous department. So the 15% you need to inform Provincial Treasury. So who do you Provincial Treasury, so who do you report to? I know the AG is one thing, but you just made like you a separate department, so that is what I thought you could ask that. Okay, over to you.
So Treasury has two functions. So the CFO's functions are separate from the Provincial Treasury as a Section 18 mandate. So the CFO deals with anything under Section 38 of the PFMA, which is the accounting officer's system, and she would execute on those in terms of any procurement rules, etc. If there's any deviation or non-compliance, it would come through then a unit that's under my auspices, under any Section 18 violation, etc. So they would, like all departments do, the Treasury would come through and report that. If they have not, it's up to us as well to not give them the condemnation, etc. in that regard. But coming back to the aspect around the requirements of 15%, it is 15% or 50 million, whichever is the lesser, for goods and services, and it's 20% or 20 million for infrastructure, whichever is the lesser. And that comes from no particular legislation. It comes from a National Treasury Instruction Note 3 of 2021, I think it is. I stand to be corrected on that. I think it is that one. The National Treasury has issued this because I think there's been issues around extensions and expansions. What you would find that when commentary was provided on this, if you look at 15% in a year, generally in contract law terms, your extensions or contract extensions happen for a year or equal to the period in which a contract has been entered into. This almost in most instances will be a very minute portion of a term or a year. So hence, when we actually, a lot of the contracts you will see in the province will exceed the 50% that may require, especially for the goods and services space. If you find a situation where you need to extend further, you're going to be sitting with a deviation from the National Instruction Note, which is 15%. And hence, when they do that, they then need to look at a justifiable reason, do the motivation, report it to the Treasury, and then go through the condemnation committee, which is then
sitting with the Provincial Government Accounting Unit under Mr. Aziz Hardin and his team. So that's the process that will be followed. If there's no justifiable reason, then obviously the Treasury then will not condone. If there are justifiable reasons, then it's condoned by the condonation committee. So that's the process that is followed.
Chair, I just want to reiterate the CFO and what's happening within the CFO in Section 38 is separate from our functions in terms of Section 18 of the PFMA. Thank you.
Chinese wall.
No, thank you. You know, there's one thing that we've learned. We don't like minute. We don't like in the greatest scheme of things and all of those type of things. You know, for us, money is money. We don't understand. You know, we don't see the bigger picture. Maybe we do, but you know, sometimes departments come. It's minute. It's a fraction of this. It's money. So we're talking about money. That is just the point I want to make. Members, we're done with E. F. F is for fail. F. Over to you. Members. Is the members online still on board? You're quiet. Oh yeah, F. We are at F for fail. Oh no, sorry, it's for finance. Well, making finance fun. That's a Member Lekotla, over to you, and then Member Lekker, over to you.
The minister left us with that finance fund, you know, and went to find up funnier places. And she left us alone here with all the work. Colleagues, I think on page 159, on this non-achievement of the procurement facility, it says applications. I think also when we're discussing with AG, you stated that applications were not received. Perhaps just give us an indication what would have happened, because my understanding of this facility was indeed to try and put together a pipeline for funding and that consolidation of infrastructure, if that is what I'm reading properly. So if you could just maybe share with us when you say, because AG said, you said there were no applications that were received. So obviously, if no applications were received, there's nothing that you could assess. But you would have anticipated, that was my assumption, when you had a planned target, you would have anticipated to receive applications. So I'm trying to understand what would have happened in that anticipation that resulted in you even making a target of those PPF applications. So I just want to understand that for now, Chair. Thank you.
You, Member Lek. Nothing. Just if you could just explain 196 note 16.1 contingent liabilities. There's the Justice Department of Justice, and then you also have the SunWest International. Those two. If you can just explain that. Thank you. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed, Member Nkondlo, there was an expectation, but we did not get any applications, and therefore we had a target. We actually re-looked at and within this year renewed emphasis in terms of how do we get departments so that we can actually get to a pipeline, because this is what this issue relates to. And so I think a lot of the time departments require assistance even to package. And I think Annalise spoke to this very same issue this morning. So we have not abandoned the indicator, but I think we are wiser in terms of how we go about getting there. Annalise?
All right, so Chair, so it's the PPF stands for Project Preparation Facility. And so we did have a target when we put the APP together. Unfortunately, there's two things that happen in the year under review. Firstly, we had in terms of the our fiscal envelope in the 23-24 financial year, in year that was reduced. So that had an impact also on projects, especially on infrastructure. So in terms of that constraint in year reduction. So for example, the reductions that happened on conditional grants was about 600 million, 640 million, 600 million alone was reductions on infrastructure projects. So that's the first impact for the year. And so when we put the budget together and the target together, we obviously did not know we're going to have those reductions in year. So secondly, what happened is also the impact of the floods on infrastructure projects, meaning that projects then had to be reprioritized in year for not only reduction of budgets, but also the reprioritization in terms of floods. Now, with that kind of reprioritization in the infrastructure space, we did not get any projects in terms of for project preparation facility. We also then, obviously it's demand driven. We have then changed in terms of how we now set the target, that it's not necessarily demand driven, but rather the services that we provide in terms of the departments for preparation. Can we deal with note 61, 196?
Yeah, the contingent liability with regards to the Department of Justice, members will see that we received the correspondence from the Department of Justice that we are owing them an amount of 80,000 rand, and that is from 2017 to 2021. We went through our records and we did not receive any of the invoices that they are referring to. We have on several occasions since receiving this claim from them, asked them for the detail, but and we received the claim just before the end of the financial year. But I can also inform the committee that today we have not received any correspondence from them, yeah, so we just couldn't find any invoices that amounts to that 80,000 rand. Then the other, I don't know if I need to go to the other contingent liability. I think that's something that's been coming on for years, and that's with regards to litigation, SunWest and the Grand West Casino. I think as we indicated there that it is not a contingent liability for the department, but will be against the Provincial Revenue Fund. I think that case is still ongoing, and there was no final outcome on that specific case.
Well, thank you, members. Is there other questions on F? Are we going to conclude? We're going to conclude. I'm going to ask the Minister and the HOD to do concluding remarks. As a scoper, I usually have a lucky draw. So Member van Minnen, you are doing the thank yous today. Your lucky draw after the Minister and the HOD do their concluding remarks.
Thank you, Chair, and just thank you to the committee for all of the questions, because even when you ask a question or the way that you ask a question, and you're also going to make us think about how we can either write our financial statements better, how we can improve our work, how we can better write our indicators and our targets, and also how we can look at how we can improve some of the matters that you yourselves have raised, but also that we have raised, because some of the things we have similarity and concerns about. But I do want to thank the Treasury. I sometimes say to our officials, the Provincial Treasury doesn't look after itself, it looks after everyone. And with that comes a lot of pressure. With that comes a very high standard of doing things. And one of our first meetings, our CFO even said to us, we must be the example, because other departments will also look at how we are doing things and they must follow suit. So we must be able to set that standard. So I really do want to thank the Treasury for all of the hard work that they're doing. As again, it's not easy achieving a clean audit, and even less so consecutively for 11 years. We've achieved the clean audit even for our Provincial Revenue Fund, and we also assist not only departments, but we also assist municipalities in all of their respective accounting and auditing queries. When they have queries on SCM, it's a lot. And for that, I really thank the Treasury, and I thank my predecessor also for being able to have achieved this wonderful feat. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister. Thank you to the committee. I think what we take from each and every engagement is assisting us in sharpening our tools. Our aim is really to look at how do we enable service delivery, and how do we partner. So to our partners also that is with us, although we here as a vote, we don't do this on our own. So to our partners, I'd like to just extend sincere appreciation to all our insurance providers. The conversations do get heated. But I think everybody has got the same aim in trying to improve the system. And then also thank you to Minister. Minister joined, yes, this was in the new year, and she's taking responsibility for that. But I think for her support also. And then definite thanks to the team. I think the members have said that this morning and again today that this afternoon, it's not easy, that it's a small team and a lot is expected. And I think the gravity of what that would mean for us to move forward, and the implications of us being able to really continue to produce at the level that we are producing, and at sometimes even taking it a step further. It's taking a lot. It's taking a lot from the team, but they have been consistent, and they have shown as a leadership team together with myself that the willingness is there. The ability and the eagerness to see a change in the system is there, and I think for that I just want to thank the entire team and to say to the committee, really the commitment is there, that we know that we need to fix. We're struggling. There's some external factors that come into play, but I think the commitment that we have here is to ensure that the staff, those who you don't see here, that we continue to create an environment that is enabling also, not only for our partners and our clients, but also for those who keep the engine moving. Thank you, Chair.
To the Minister and the HOD and all the staff, thank you very, very much for being here today. I think it's been quite a long day for some people. Thank you very much for everything that you've been doing and for the excellent report. To the Chair, who I think is a little tired of chairing now after, 2.5, 3 weeks. Also, thank you very much. Procedural Officer and all the members, everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you. The meeting's adjourned. We will meet for procedural matters. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. We're just going to ask Mr. Davidson to read the resolutions, and then if you want to add, you can add after that. Mr. Davis, over to you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members. Chair, through you. Just the first resolution that I captured is the transversal resolution of Member Nkonla that's going to the end, the opening introductory remarks of the committee for the report, Chair, which basically states where the committee basically asks the Auditor General of South Africa what the definition is of service delivery, what are being measured, and service delivery impact. Maybe just a engagement with the Auditor General on that in the new year, Chairperson, early in the new year. And then Chairperson, I just want to see if, okay, I'm seeing some members online. Then Chairperson, basically there was just your concern about the emerging risk of the employees. How the department plans to mitigate this. The department said that they will meet with Department of the Premier, DPSA, to try and resolve the issue, to meet on it. And Chair, then I've just made a resolution here, Chair, that once they have met, Provincial Treasury have met with those stakeholders, that they report back to the committee chairperson on what was the outcome of that emerging risk for employees, Chair. And then Chairperson, Member Petrus asked about the scope resolution about that took place at the beginning of this year. I will forward that to the member as well and to the rest of the committee. And then basically your resolution, Chair, your transversal resolution, that will also go into the introductory remarks of the committee. Basically just the 30-day payment of the invoices, just a footnote for future purposes, Chairperson. That's about it, Chair. So far. Yeah.
Does it capture everything, Member Lekker?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if it has been captured in my own way. This one of the forensic investigation on the laptops. Can we get that one, please?
Okay. You've put it in there?
Yes, Chair. So Member Lekker on page 95 asks you, is there any consequent management on the laptops issue? So I'll just ask for a report there, Chair.
And for what? I've seen they bought the padlocks but also where I'm failing to understand if the provision for the padlocks is as a result of the theft of the laptops, then why that report is not included in the annual report itself? Thank you, Chair.
Member Nkonla?
Chair, I think starting from the gambling board, if we could get a copy of that BBE case and what is the process now that they are following, because I think it was just interesting for me of what the court stated and what is it, that they have to do now in still in implementing BBE as a licensing condition. If they can at least send us information on that as the gambling board, but also the ministers, I think we said we're going to check the issue of, also they've got 32 vacancies, if you could call posts, actually not vacancies, that are unfunded, and they're looking for funding for that because they've got a lot of work. It seems we have got a similar problem of the department when it comes to staff issues in the board. And then with the department, I'm interested in this thing. I don't know, they call it Section 18, this thing that where they are able to do the deviation or the contract something. If they can just give us, what is that thing? How does it work? It's good to read and understand. Yes, that regulation. Yes, yeah, if they can just share that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does it cover everything? Thank you. Members online, no comments. Member Petrus and Member Van Wyk, you still there?
Yes, it's only that. Thank you, Chairperson. Only that one of the resolutions that you agree with me. You agreed with me on that one.
Thank you. Member Van Wyk?
Okay. Yeah, look, the only other little issue that
irked me a little bit was that whole property that the board has acquired, because I'm not sure that there's all that sound logic in what they did in terms of that property. It's very difficult to really evaluate in terms of what the information that we had there, how much space they actually need. You know, they were talking about that they were paying huge amounts of rental, and therefore it was cheaper to buy the property because they could pay it off in 4 or 5 years. It does seem to indicate to me that they probably were paying over the top for rental on the property. They've now gone to buy a property that seems to be was above the price that they should have paid for it in terms of that impairment that they had to do. So I'm not sure whether we want to request you know, a further report on that. I don't know how other members feel on that. Whether you know, the colleagues agree with me that it was not clear to us on the actual real value for money that they got or that they are getting in the property space, the office space that they're utilizing.
Member Mavik, I think we should get a briefing on that because it's complex. You know, they're going to send us a document, but I don't think if that's going to be suffice. I think we need a briefing on that because I'm sure there's a lot of questions pertaining to that. So I'm suggesting that we do a briefing on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to support that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. The meeting is now adjourned. Like normal, there's stuff at the back.